I'm Shaken Gaming, and this is my tier list for Dragon Champions, November 2020. Just a disclaimer, this is not the truth. This will not be accurate for 100% of the players in this game, but it will certainly be pretty accurate for 99% of the players at level 80. Below level 80 there will be some characters that will benefit you more early on, which will then, when you get max level, will be less beneficial. And then there will be some characters that are down in the lowest categories that if you're in the top 1% of the players, like above 1.3 million total hero power, some of the very low ones will be more helpful in battlegrounds, for example, because you need 10 teams there. But the ranks going from A to F, with F being useless, never use it, E being can be used as a last resort, D usable but mediocre, C use often, B use always, and A just better than the rest. Oh, and then I have a green marker just for a few select heroes, which means they are not very good in general, but they will move up in rank if you use them in the raid. So, on to the bottom level. Let's see what characters have rank F. Here we are. I'll go over them one by one, just briefly. Shaolin. He's still waiting for the panda rework, if he is involved in that, as is many of the pandas. That'll be the same case for Hilda. Both of them are not very good at what they do. Diesel Rock, he's got synergies with both goblins and orcs, but none of it really works. He's not good at anything. Varren is on paper pretty good, and he'll get a big jump in stats and survivability when we move to gear 12, which is still a bit far out for nearly everyone. But he could be very strong on a poison stacking team, but the problem is he removes the poisons as well. So he's sort of, he just loses out wherever you try to fit him in. Elira, she can be used in battlegrounds if you have two elf teams, but still, nah. Her skill set is just too weak. Darien, the same. His skill set doesn't really do anything. Of course, he can be built to be a very strong tank if you have the right runes, but in general, he's the weakest tank in my opinion. He's got the least usability of all of them. Robin Bad, well, the name says everything. He can actually be used in the T7 raid if you lack some of the other characters to solo it, especially phase 1 and 3 to remove turn meter, but you need very specific setups, so he's just a niche character for that alone. Selena, she still copies taunt from the opponent tank and applies it to some of your own damage dealers. No. Old Lur is in a bit of a tricky situation. He has been reworked, and he is a lot stronger than he was before. Before he was outside of ranks, he wasn't even F on my list. As more people will unlock and use Arno, I think he's got a place in there and he will move up, but so far no one really has him. Arno at a decent level, so he's still here in the F section. Next one, E. We've got, what do we have? 3 pandas, and the first higher rank in raid for one of them. If we start by Kin Lee, he's not a bad tank, but he needs to go with pandas to make his leadership work, or if he's under Patriarch Kui's leadership, that also works, but the pandas are so weak overall that it just doesn't justify moving him any further up than E. Same goes for Patriarch Kui, he's bound by the same limitations. Master Duo, he can be used. He's got regeneration for your team, he can give turn meter to your team, and he can remove turn meter. In fact, he's the best turn meter removal character in the game, but his damage is so bad, and he's got no AoE, so he can't really move further up than E rank. But if you rank him by raid characters, he will go up to A or B if this was just purely raid, because he is one of the best characters in the raid, in my opinion. Then there are two orcs, both very, very squishy orcs. Martha, she doesn't heal for a lot, she's squishy. Rantha, she's got the bear, but apart from the bear, she is doing absolutely no damage. She doesn't survive. If the bear is dead, she doesn't do anything. Snorri, he used to be up very high, but his AoE just doesn't do enough, and he's very squishy as well. Of course, he's got some usability, but you need to put him in on an AoE team, preferably with bleeds on it. It gets quite a niche to use him. Then there are 3 elves in a row. All 3 can be used, but none of them are really good. Kelran is maybe the only one of them that could go up to D. As it stands now, he's close. He's definitely gotten a lot stronger with gear 12, and on 2 elf teams in Battlegrounds, which is decent at the moment. It's one of the better factions to go 2 teams on. Of course, these characters, 3 ones can be used. Sengil, he doesn't heal for a lot. He's still relatively squishy, but he do blind occasionally. It's just 2 RNG. Sharp, he's too slow, and his buffs doesn't add enough to the team, in my opinion. Then there's Yogi. Yogi has never really been good at anything except doing his blind, which is now partially not possible in the raid, especially in T7 and T8. In the Tier 8 raid, he can't be used at all. In the Tier 7 raid, he can be used in some of the phases. But since he cannot be used in Tier 8 at all, I thought I'd not give him a green square around him this time. Last up, there's Caggy. Just like the pandas, the Pride also waiting for a rework before getting any good, really. And Caggy got some good synergies with Boreas and with Roxy, but it's just not there yet. He's definitely the weakest of the usable characters on Pride. He could go up to D ranking, but it's his damage is low, but he's got to speed up for your entire team. So, and he needs his synergies with the others, especially Boreas, to be useful, and it mainly just makes Boreas useful, not Caggy himself. So that was E ranking. D, getting up to usable, but still somewhat mediocre. If we start by Major Shot, he definitely has merits in Battlegrounds. He cannot be used in the raid anymore. His damage isn't great. It's all about crowd control. So that's mainly in the raid that he could be good, and he's definitely still good in the T7 raid. On a Goblin team with General Murdoch in the lead in Battlegrounds, he's on the A team, I'd say, because he is very annoying to fight against. But still mediocre overall. Ma used to be a bomb in doing AoE damage, but he's not had any rework. He's not been buffed in any way, while a lot of other characters have been buffed and new characters have come out, and the orcs aren't in any way meta anymore, so he just fell behind, really. Little Baddie isn't the greatest tank. She's too easy to kill, she's too easy to strip her taunt from, but she does do an AoE blind, and she does remove turn meter, and that's why the green square is there again. She is definitely one of the better characters in the raid as well, even in tier 8, and she can easily get high up in potency, which you need in the raid to strip that tenacity off the bosses. Foul, yeah, she lacks from the panda being so far behind all the other races. She does have a decent AoE, she can remove turn meter, and she can give dodge up to your entire team, but hit her once or twice and she's dead. Corkrim, he's got his AoE stun, and that's it. He doesn't do any good damage. His passive, where he can potentially do extra damage to stunned and burned enemies, well, good luck ever triggering his passive. It's just not meant to be that it triggers. So he's got potential, but the team's just isn't there, and he's still rather squishy. Puncherface, the lowest ranking demon together with Mega Wheel. Puncherface, he can avoid enemy tanks, but his damage isn't that great, and his speed used to be super high compared to anything else due to his possibility to gain speed and give turn meter to himself, but he just isn't there. He's just not doing enough, and he's so squishy. Hera and Salvador, the two next, they are made for each other. They need each other. If they're not with each other, they are both crap. That limits them quite a lot, and they don't do anything else than tanking and hiding others. That's really what they do. None of them do any damage. None of them do anything else than make sure Salvador gets hit. Not enough. Rin is starting to see some usage on the late lead. She can be very good in specific situations versus the right setups, but she's not quite there yet. Maybe with some rework of the pandas. Said it again. Mega Wheel just got buffed. He's definitely far better than he used to be. And he's quite tanky now, if you level him up to gear 12, that is. But his passive, his unique buff, Torture, which is supposed to do more damage to enemies with his abilities and avoid damage from opponents, it doesn't work as it says on the paper, on the patch notes. I can tell you that. I've done some testing. Maybe he'll go up to a C rank when the devs fix him, but so far his torture buff isn't as good as it sounds, so that's why he's down here. Atom is the least plug-and-play character you can imagine. He's so bad without other goblins and without Garm with his piggies. But he can be very good. He can be good, but he needs that specific goblin team to shine. Selenar, our new tournament character, which takes forever to get to tier 7 stars. He's quite tanky, but he doesn't do a lot of damage, and he's restricted. The worst part about Selenar is he's restricted to using 2 of the squishiest orcs you can imagine. So Selenar himself is actually good, but only if paired with 2 very bad orcs. And whatever team you put those 2 orcs on is a bad team. And that makes Selenar bad overall. He's got potential, but he's limited by 2 other characters. That's why he's there. Moving up to C ranking. The good characters. Use them often. Wow, there are 3 Pride up here. They have a great potential, but they can become even stronger. Reval has one of the very best AoEs in the game. He's got a decent leadership, even though it's not used that very often. He's probably one of the lower C characters, but he's still there. He can do a lot of damage with his bleeds and his AoE and his turn meter gain when they're bleeding, but he needs others to make characters bleed for him. For example, Bori, who's the next character. Bori can do a ton of damage, but it's single target only. And he needs to buff up now and then, and it makes him slow. And that's why he's not higher, because he can do very high damage spikes, but not often enough. Wanderlula, the demon killer, she's good. That's why she's C ranked, but not higher. No AoE. She needs the stealth, which takes a turn, doesn't give any turn meter. And yeah, well, I'm not a big fan of her, but I do recognize that she's doing a lot of damage. Lake, up on a C rating. He could go higher, he could go lower. If you put him on a random team, he's definitely worse than C. But if you put him with Ember and build the team right, possibly even with Amara, he can really rock the team and make it something completely new. Rin is also the only one that doesn't have any role apart from being under a Lake lead so far. Maybe it will change with the Panda rework. But yeah, it's back and forth. Lake is a good character, but you need specifics for him to use. Pigwald, he just got nerfed. He could possibly go down to a D as well, because his passive, his self buff is just too weak now. It only lasts 1 hit, not a turn. So if you just do 1 assist on a goblin team, and all goblins really should be on a goblin team, more or less. If you just do 1 hit on an assist, then his buff is gone and he cannot use it for his big hit on his third ability. But his damage is through the roof when he can pull that third ability and finish off low targets that are not possible to hit because a tank is taunting. He is very good at that. Santara, with the rework, got stronger. She now synergizes with Mega Wheel and can keep him up quite a lot easier. She's definitely better than she was, but she's still a bit limited in her damage. I know she's a healer, but well, she's C rank, so it's not like she's a bad healer. Venomate, he's a bit squishy to be a C character, but he does a lot of things. He can give turn meter to an ally. He can do a massive AoE to the enemies and debuff them. And under Shadar lead, for example, he will be very good combined with, for example, Radash next to him. He does synergize very well with Kyra, whom sadly has gotten nerfed. And he's got a high place in my tier 8 raid ranking on the third phase with versus Murdoch, where he is my main damage dealer. Radash, the new hero, the upside down blue demon. His kit is extremely good. But to use it, to benefit from it, to use it fully, there isn't a real team. You need a lot of debuffs on the enemies, and you need him under Shadar lead, otherwise he's useless. And you need debuffs. And that's just too many things at one time. You only have Radash and Venomate that persistently can do AoE debuffs. Then you have Kyra, who can potentially do it, but you need RNG for it. And his damage isn't that high. He shouldn't. If there were more debuffs from the demons going out, he wouldn't need the extra damage. But because of these limitations, he should have higher damage. But yeah, well, he's not mediocre. He's usable, but he's not that good. Amara has one of the highest AoE abilities in the game. That's why she's here. She's hard to use. She doesn't fit in a lot of teams. But she does synergize very, very well with Tanessa, which very few people have at a decent level or rank so far. Star level, I mean. But she does have one of the best AoEs in the game. That's why she's a C rank. Combined with Tanessa, they can really shine together. But you need a very specific team for it to work. That's why Tanessa's up here as well. Arno, I'm still unsure if he's a C character or a B character. He's definitely a very strong tank. His healing immunity he can give to enemies isn't really working. You need specific scenarios for that to work. But he is a good tank. And I think as people get his shots, we will see more and more Arnos in the battlegrounds. Roxy, already talked about her. She needs specific setups with Pride, but when you have the right setup, she is definitely making the Pride so much stronger that even though she doesn't in herself do a lot of damage, she deserves a C ranking in my opinion. Yeah, I'm sorry, I had to take a short break. I suddenly realized that I had put my picture at a weird place, and I've probably blocked off maybe both Caggy and Salvador and Atom and Roxy. Just realized it when I came to Frieza, because now I could definitely see that I was blocking his picture. Next up is Frieza. Let's continue. Frieza used to be one of the best AoE characters with turn meter removal, slow, and a decent damage. But he's still a good character. That's why he's C. But he just fell a bit below B ranking due to recent reworks and new characters coming out. Inspector Garm. He is so annoying when he gets a few piggies out. Makes him extremely strong, and he is one of the targets you should always prioritize killing when you have the chance. And that's worthy of a C ranking in my opinion. So, B ranking, use always. Here comes the very strong characters. Shadar, the turn meter gain, and his defense down, and his stun, combined with a decent leadership now, or maybe. Let's see if... The problem is that his leadership isn't consistent yet. There's a problem with it, and the devs are working on fixing him. The turn meter gain is somewhat inconsistent, and where it lands after that, I'm not sure. But overall, he's a solid B character. He can be used on so many teams, just for the defense down and the turn meter gain to the entire team. Sarah, she's got the best leadership from any orc, and she does high damage, and she blocks healing on enemies. Enough said there. Murdoch has always been one of the best characters. Removing debuffs every single turn, ability block all the opponent team, and giving regen and damage up and cheat death. He's a very good character. Eric, combined with Garrett, is very, very strong. Without Garrett, not that much, but still he sees a lot of use, even without Garrett, in the current arena meta, due to avoiding Garrett's blind, because he's the only one that can throw out debuff immunity for your entire team, which is extremely strong. And that's his main point. Alone, he's not that strong. He gets buffed by Garrett both in speed and damage. His single target damage is good, but he's got no AoE. His really strong point is that debuff immunity, really. Dr. Frank, he brings a lot to the goblins. The shock just starts the chain assists so madly, and his heal is very good as well. He doesn't do any damage on his own, so you need to stack him with other goblins for him to work, but then he is a very, very strong character. Nigel has always been in the top. With Solius or without now, you can run her after her rework. She is a decent leader as well now on a second elf team in the battlegrounds. So whether you use her there or you use her under Talam lead or Solius lead, she is strong no matter what. Debuff stripping from herself and Solius if she's with him. Buff stripping from opponent's tanks, and she does a lot of damage on her single target and buffs the team. Garrett, he's that blind. That's what he is. He's got a very early second turn blind for all enemies, and that alone in the current arena meta is so strong. But he doesn't do any damage. He isn't very tanky. But the blind itself deserves him a B ranking. Trumgar, he's one of the best tanks in the game. Not much else to say. Everyone hates being chain stunned when attacking Trumgar if you don't strip his taunt or his retaliation from him. It can devastate anything. Count Delman does a lot of damage. Removes opponent's tanks from the game effectively. Definitely strong character. Cruel, she's still good, even though she's not as strong as she used to be. The clone ability is still ridiculously strong. Just taking a character that has 5% left on health on the opponent team, cloning it to 70% health of Cruel's health is just amazing. And she removes the taunt from opponent tanks by stealthing them, which is quite annoying when you have that on your own tank. Kyra, everyone knows Kyra. She was A ranking before this rework that just happened with the Halloween patch. She's still a good character with turn meter, AoE, synergy with the Venomade. But she lost a bit from the stealthing not applying to everyone except the tank. She's definitely been nerfed, but she's still a good character in my opinion. Ember, she's a legendary. the first legendary, I think. But she's also the only legendary not an A ranking, and that's possibly because she doesn't fit in a good team. She fits with pandas, and pandas are still shit. Sorry. Slinger, he used to be an A ranking, but reworks and other characters released. He's still a good character, but he fell a bit behind. Strong AoE, possible to remove opponents' buffs, but yeah. Failure, another good character. Very strong synergy with some of the other elves. Sadly, some of it is with Sengil and Elira. That, in my opinion, puts her down from a B ranking, from an A ranking to a B ranking. But she is very strong, both under a Nightingale lead or a Talam lead. She can excel on both of those teams. Just a very, very strong character. She doesn't need a lot to go up to A ranking, in my opinion. A ranking, final tier. Let's see, the just better than the rest. And we have some legendary characters, and we have some recent tournament released characters. No surprise there. These are the strongest characters. There are two healers, Solius and Renara. Both are very, very, very good at what they do. They can heal for a ton. Solius do various other things as well. He can also hit hard. And he's quite tanky. He's the full package. Even though he's not the best character in the game and humans aren't the best faction, he's still a very good character on his own. Renara, likewise, her heal, her cheat death ability, and then her revive. The revive itself is incredibly strong in many, many situations. She's a very good plug and play character. That's why she's up here. Buff used to be the best character in the game. Is he still? I don't know. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't. It's a tie. But buffs, debuffs, turn meter gain, debuff removal from himself and an ally. Very strong leadership, even though it's been nerfed. No doubt he's up here. Titania, she's just an annoyance to fight. The dodge and some elves, she's so hard to hit. It's more annoying than it's fun to fight her. It just gets boring. That's how good she is. And not in a good way, really, because she's just annoying. Let's just keep it at that. Kiri used to be that category as well, but with Kyra's reworked, not so much anymore. Still a very, very, very strong character. A very strong tank. Maybe fallen a bit behind Titania, but Titania needs elves, preferably more than one. Kiri, just by adding one demon to her team, she is a lot stronger on her own. She is also better than Titania, in my opinion. But with the right teams, Titania is probably stronger. General Murdoch. The best goblin by far. His leadership, his AoE ability, his AoE slow, his turn meter removal, his damage. He is so good and usable in a lot of content, including the raid. Madum, the ultimate plug and play character, got a bit worse after the rework of his minions, but he's still the best plug and play character. The minions, the buff removal from opponents, and his big swing adding a lot of debuffs and a lot of damage. No doubt about it. The last one, Talam. She is contesting buff as the best hero in the game currently, in my opinion. Her alone leading a team, doesn't matter what you have apart from her. She alone can devastate the enemy as long as you have someone to make sure that she doesn't get debuffs with days or she get ability blocked. If that doesn't happen, she can strip any team apart on her own. Buff and Talan, those two are the best characters in the game at the moment. But I reckon that new factions coming out soon and rework of others will take her off that crown soon. Maybe later, but I think sooner than later. That was it. Big disclaimer, this is my opinion. Very biased, but I think this is usable for, as I said, 99% of players reached level 80 at least. There's an infographic for this, of course. You're looking at it. How stupid is that to say? Of course, there's an infographic, and it will be placed on my Imgur page, which is linked in the description below. It will also be on various Discords, including my own, which is always updated with everything. You can come in there and chat and ask questions or help if you need anything. There's a link for that in the description as well. Like, subscribe if you want to. Other than that, have a great day.